Something I was thinking about today in the gospel reading, we see that Jesus sends the apostles out to the Sea of Galilee in a boat, and it's nighttime, and Jesus stays behind to dismiss the crowds from the shore, and when he's alone, he goes up to a mountain to pray. By the time he's done praying, the gospel says that the boat is miles offshore. Jesus then walks out to meet the apostles. He walks on the water to have an encounter with them. But if the boat is miles offshore, then that means Jesus had to walk miles out to meet them. Jesus makes the first move, and he makes the greatest effort, walking miles, not a few feet, but miles to go out and meet with them. The apostles see him and they're terrified, and Peter calls out to him and says, "Lord, if that's really you, command me to come out onto the water with you." And Jesus says, "Come." At this time, it's the dead of night. The storm and the sea are at their fiercest. The wind is blowing, the waves are crashing. This is the scariest moment of their 24-hour day. And Jesus makes the first move and the greatest move to go out to meet them, to have an encounter with them in the middle of this terrifying moment of their day. But then he tells Peter, "Come." And Peter only has to walk a few steps. Jesus took the first move by walking those miles. "Lord, if it's really you, prove it. Command me to walk out onto the water and prove it." And don't we do that to God every day? God, if this is really your will, prove it. God, if this is really good for me, well, prove it. God, if you're going to take care of me, prove it. We have to remember that to have an encounter with us, God is always making the first move. He's always walking the most miles. And then he asks us to trust and to walk out to have the encounter with him. And he asks us to only walk a few steps. He doesn't ask us to go as far as he goes for us. And what do we say? Prove it. Prove it. We have to give God the opportunity to surprise us. Because Jesus doesn't tell Peter, "I promise you will not sink." Jesus only tells Peter, "Come." He gives Peter just proof enough. He doesn't give Peter any assurance. He only gives Peter one word, "Come," because that should be enough. Give me a chance to surprise you. I'm not going to promise you won't sink. I'm not even going to command the waves to stop. I'm just telling you to come. Trust me and come. Trust me and walk. Trust me and go further. Come. That's all he gives to Peter. And Peter makes a leap of faith. His faith then falters and he begins to sink. Jesus, after rescuing him, says, "Why did you doubt? You of little faith, why did you doubt?" We have to give him the opportunity to surprise us. We have to act in faith and trust in him. He's given us enough to believe in him. He's given us enough to have faith in him. And sometimes to strengthen our faith, he puts us in a boat and he sends us out in the dead of night in the middle of a storm. He then walks the extra miles to go out and meet with us, and then he tells us, "Come. I've given you enough to trust and believe. Now you have to act on it. Come. Trust me, believe me. Come and have an encounter with me, with my love, with my will for you, whatever the encounter is." Give God the opportunity to surprise you. Don't ask him to make any guarantees. Sometimes we want to. I do that every day. Sometimes we want to tell God, "Give me a guarantee that this will work, that this is good, that this is going to be okay." But we have to understand and believe that God has already walked miles out to come meet with us in the middle of the worst possible storms, and then says, "Come." Make that leap of faith and go out and have an encounter with him, with his love, with his mercy, with his will for you. Give him the opportunity to surprise you. Don't make him guarantee that you won't sink. Just trust that you won't. Give him the opportunity to surprise you. And that's all I have. Thank you. God be with you all.